And with our first presentation for tonight, we'll start with Dr. Antonio starting now.
Thank you very much. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about contact sports in collaboration with the Department of Neuroscience at Nova Southeastern University. We're looking at three contact sports: soccer, mixed martial arts fighting, and football. But I'm going to focus on soccer. And we looked at Division II female soccer players, and we compared them to highly trained female controls. These are young girls, they're in great shape. What did we look at? We measured something called NFL, ironically, neurofilament light chain protein, which is a blood marker of neurodegeneration. You see high levels of it in folks with Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and MS. So what did we find? And the data says, I like how you look over in front of the figure. Female Division II soccer players have significantly higher levels of neurofilament light chain, which indicates what? That they have probably more neurodegeneration. So, as Confucius says, hitting a ball with head, not good ever. So I want to thank my team. Sorry, this is a team sport. Julius, Dominic, Jamie, and Corey, thank you very much.
Our next speaker is David Sanders.
Okay, ready, set, go.
Thank you. We looked at change in stress-related biomarkers and high-level youth dancers over performance season, focusing on the stress hormones. That was the purpose of the study. And we also wanted to compare the differences between male and females. There were high-level vocational ballet dancers, 9 males, 10 females. Every 28 days, over the course of the season, 5 months long, they had their biomarkers assessed with the quest diagnostics blueprint or athlete's pattern. In the males, we had a significant increase in SHBG, and we also saw an increase in testosterone over the course of the season, though they weren't significant. In the females, we had a decrease in FSH, with the concomitant also we had a decrease in estradiol. So what does this all mean, despite similar training over the course of the season? Different physiological responses between the sexes. Boys will be boys, no change, and the females, we have HPG dysfunction, signs of it that might lead to primary or secondary amenorrhea in these athletes.
He actually finished with about 10 seconds to spare. Bonus points.
Okay, ready, set.
No.
Yes,
let him go to the slide. Dr. Michael Roberts.
Okay, thank you. Today we're going to talk about muscle jumping genes, aging, and exercise. Are we going to talk about genes that help you jump? Hell no, we're talking about a gene that's in your genome called LINE1. It makes an RNA intermediary, and then it'll create a double-stranded molecule and insert that gene in a new location. This is bad because it increases mutagenic potential, can cause DNA damage, and it can alter your chromatin structure, lead to nuclear genome instability. So what does this have to do about muscle? Well, with aging, we found that in the hindlimb of rats, the RNA of this gene goes up. It also goes up at the DNA level, saying that retrotransposition does indeed occur. Can we do anything about this? Well, we had two groups of rats. One group exercised for 5 months, one group remained sedentary. We showed that the muscle RNA levels decreased, so it decreases pathway, and we also showed the amount in DNA was bound up, so it's transcriptionally inactive. So we think exercise increases that exercise for the win.
Judges, you're so great. We gotta figure it out.
Our next speaker is Patrick Hart.
All right, let's have a chat about caffeine timing and jumping performance of the actual vertical kind. So to answer our research question, we recruited 29 resistance-trained subjects, both males and females, used a double-blind placebo-controlled study design, and administered 6 milligrams per kilo of caffeine in liquid form, given either 2 hours, 1 hour, or 30 minutes prior to testing, which consisted of an isometric mid-thigh exercise, vertical jumps, as well as isometric and isokinetic testing. So we're just going to look at vertical jumps right now. We found that caffeine improved performance in all conditions relative to placebo, but The effect size was highest in the 1 hour condition. Additionally, we saw a post-hoc significant difference between the 1 hour and 30-minute conditions. So the take-home message is to consume caffeine 1 hour prior to the point when you need to exert that power production. And if you're interested in those other variables, check out my posters tomorrow. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dr. Shelley Wolf.
Our study examined the caloric intake of female soccer players in comparison to the ISSN recommended guidelines. We had 20 Division I female collegiate soccer players. We used the participants' body weight to determine the caloric intake recommendations and the macronutrient recommendations for them. What did we actually find? We actually found that in terms of, we had 2 reporting periods. We had a preseason and a mid-season reporting period, that in terms of the energy intake, carbohydrate intake, and fat intake was actually significantly less than the ISSN guidelines in the preseason as well as the mid-season reporting phases. And then what protein intake was actually equivalent during the preseason recording phase, but significantly less during the mid-season phase. Future research, one of the things we want to do is potentially have a nutritional knowledge survey that goes along with re-collecting this data next year.
Are we ready, Judge?
Yeah.
Our next speaker is Maddie Kenyon.
Do these genes make me look fat? This is an investigation of a hypocaloric, high-protein diet and body composition in individuals with varying FTO alleles. So we took 7 exercise training men and women, put them on a hypocaloric, high-protein diet, hypocaloric being approximately 20% deficit in your normal calories, and at about 2 grams of protein per kilogram in your body weight. We did body composition testing, so DEXA in body, did a genetic sample through saliva for FTO or genotyping. As it turns out, if you have less calories, you will lose weight, it doesn't matter. Calories in, calories out. No magic equation. There was no statistically significant difference between the amount of fat lost during a hypocaloric diet between the different alleles. It was magical, and you got to preserve your lean body mass, keeping the protein very high. There's no fancy equation, so thank you to our protein team.
knockout animal model of healthy aging to examine whether or not the microbiome plays a role in its phenotype and or its genetic background. So we took these super mice and compared them to their wild type litter mates, let some exercise, kept some sedentary. We also then knocked out the microbiota to see what this contribution might be. We used a 16S4 to 23S reverse primer to look at microbial composition. We noted that AC5 sedentary had a very similar microbiome to those wild-type litter mates that had trained. However, when they exercised, they had an enhanced microbial composition, as indicated by also our PCOA plot. When we knocked out the microbiota, we noticed that exercise tolerance was reduced, and they also had a significant change in their short-chain fatty acid production from acetate to butyrate. Thank you.
speaker is Diego Maria Ocampo.
Hi, I could show some effects of creatine plus beef protein on body component levels in lower limb after 8 weeks of cluster training in training minutes. So in brief, there was 3 groups, 1 control, 2 cluster training groups, 2 groups, they did 3 sets, 12 reps, 4 clusters with 20 seconds intervals each one. The creatine group takes 0.1 grams of creatine per kg, plus half a body mass of beef protein after training. All of these groups were in high protein diet. The statistical analysis showed significant difference from baseline for all variables in both of the cluster training groups. However, the dose also revealed a greater gains in the spiral 1RM and a trend in fat-free mass in control in the creatine group versus the control. So this spiral study showed that all the cluster groups with or without creatine increased similarly in all variables. However, promoted greater adaptations in creatine versus control.
Hello, welcome to Nutrition, Supplementation, and Drug Practices of In-Season Disease Competitors. This was a retrospective study of 10 males, average age 30 years old, body fat percentage 7.2% as measured by ultrasound. Data was collected at check-ins 1 day prior to competition via politics.com. Survey was administered asking about nutrition, supplementation, and drug practices over the last 30 days. Data was analyzed with descriptive stats. And here are the results. The average calorie intake was 1,678 calories. Protein, carb, and fat intake of 179, 122, and 45 grams respectively. However, there was a large range in the calorie intake, ranging from as little to 1,000, and you can see up to 2,300. Protein, carb, and fat intake also ranged quite a bit. Water intake 3 days, 2 days, and 1 day out, ranged from as little as 8 ounces of water to as much as 320 ounces of water. The most commonly used supplement was BCAAs, and they reported drug use, primarily testosterone cyclinate, Winstrol, and clenbuterol.
Our next speaker is Julius Thomas.
So I'm Julius. My research partners were Dominic Cabrera, Jose Antonio, Corey Peacock, and Jamie Tarter. We started with a simple mission. We wanted to see what the consequences were participating in contact sports for those athletes. We simply looked at their biology, their emotion, and their cognitive measures. We started with the same questions everybody's always wondered about. How does contact sports affect your memory? How does contact sports affect your cognitive? But we also added one more important thing that a lot of studies haven't. How do they feel? And some of our most significant data was based around some of the emotional measures, specifically with NFL athletes. If you want to learn more, come check out my poster tomorrow. See you then.
Dr. Bill Campbell.
We took competitive male and female physique athletes and measured their body composition, metabolic rate, and blood hormones for 8 weeks in the post-competition period in this descriptive study. What we found was not surprising. Every metabolic and physiological variable increased in the post-competition period. On a percentage basis, you'll notice that the females had greater increases as compared to the males. So what we can conclude from this is that physique athletes that experience physiological and metabolic adaptations associated with aggressive dieting will rebound from those adaptations in a relatively short amount of time. I'd like to thank James Longstrom, my grad student, for designing and coordinating the study, and for Megan Humphreys and Brian Waddell, who are my grad students that are at the conference with me.
Our next speaker is Matthew Schratt.
All right, so we took 26 recreationally active males and put them into one of two groups, either a 16 and 8 time restricted feeding group or a normal diet distribution group. We then had them undergo 4 weeks of supervised resistance training, and we put, along with those 4 weeks, we put them into an isocaloric, high protein, high-protein diet. We measured body composition, utilizing a four-compartment model as well as ultrasound, and muscular performance using a bench press and leg press, 1 repetition, max 1 repetition failure, and vertical jump, as well as some blood biomarkers pre and post and a bunch of different surveys. So what we found that there were no significant differences between the groups for improvements in body composition, improvements in muscular performance, any of the psychometric parameters. However, there was a difference in cortisol at the end of the 4 weeks, with it being significantly raised in the normal diet group. So in conclusion, our results suggest that 4 weeks of time-restricted feeding did not enhance reductions in fat mass or hinder improvements in muscular performance.
Our next speaker is the Honorable Arnie Brown.
We previously shown a dose response of free-form EAA ingestion in young folks, and we got a response as early as 3 grams. Well, as you know, things don't always work the same in older folks, so we tested in older folks looking at about 4 grams, 11-gram ingestion, muscle protein synthetic response. You see that the muscle protein synthetic response was the same in both groups, even at the smaller dose. And by the way, this was actually the rationale for the formulation and the recommended dosage for the product. Thank you.
Did I miss it? Yeah. There. This doesn't make sense. We're right by it. Yeah, it is up there. Okay. No wonder went fast. Happy hour soon. Our next speaker is Harry Centennial.
All right, so we're going to talk about body composition here. We looked at brightness mode ultrasound. It's a reliable field method, proposed to be much faster than any other method for measuring body composition. Currently, the modified Jackson-Pollock skin-fold equations have been used to calculate body fat percentage. So we compared brightness mode ultrasound 7, 4, and 3 site to BOD-POD. So what we did, we had subjects come in, these were adolescent dancers, come in for testing in a euhydrated fasted state in order to measure body composition via BOD-POD and also through the brightness mode ultrasound. These are the sites we used. Come to my poster if you want to learn more. So what we saw in the females was very strong correlations between all 3 brightness mode ultrasound measures and BOD-POD. The males didn't follow suit here. There were much weaker correlations in males. Within the females, there were lower significant differences between the 2 measures. 3 site works best in female. For male, we need more research.
Our next presenter is Dr. Scott Forbes.
Okay, the purpose of this study was to look at protein supplementation during concurrent training. We had 31 recreationally active females and males. They were randomized to 3 different groups: whey protein isolate, whey protein concentrate, or placebo. They all did 6 weeks of concurrent training, consisting of twice a week strength training and 4 times a week endurance training. Before and after training, we measured 2,000 meter time trial performance, upper and lower body strength, which maps immune cell hormonal response to exercise. Results, we found that training was good, improved fitness and performance. Protein supplementation did not further improve the outcome measures. Despite the protein group consuming greater than 650 more calories per day, actually body mass didn't change over time and was not different compared to placebo. So when you go out tonight and eat a lot of food, eat a lot of protein.
Our next speaker is Katie Hirsch.
All right, the purpose of the study was to compare and validate a 3D body scanner to DEXA and a 4-compartment model. 67 normal weight college students, as defined by BMI, completed a 360-degree infrared scan, a total body DEXA scan, and a 4-compartment assessment, which involves measures of body volume, body water, bone mineral, and body mass from the body pod, biological impedance, and DEXA. Results showed that the 3D scan will produce results similar to DEXA with total error and standard error that is considered good to fairly good. However, when compared to that 4-compartment model, it tended to over-predict body fat, under-predict lean mass, had total error and standard error that was considered poor, and large limits of agreement. So in conclusion, a 3D scan is going to produce results similar to the DEXA, but requires further validation for the 4-compartment model. Thanks.
Our next speaker is Dr. Eric Rawson.
Hi. Creatine monohydrate supplementation increases muscle creatine levels about 20%, may or may not increase brain creatine levels about 5%. We're trying to understand if the optimal muscle creatine supplementation protocols are the same for brain creatine levels. So we simultaneously assessed muscle and brain creatine changes following a supplementation protocol. We did this with proton magnetic resonance spectroscopy. The dose of creatine was 0.3 grams per kg per day, twice a day in the lab and twice a day on their own. Results are as follows. Muscle creatine significantly increased, about 15% for the group. Notice that everybody had an increase post-supplementation. Brain creatine levels, huge variability. Some people went up, some people went down, some people didn't change at all. So there was profound differences between the effects of this supplementation protocol on muscle and brain creatine. We think this has to do with brain transport. Thanks.
You guys are so great.
Our next speaker is Victoria Burgess.
Hi everyone. My study is on the influence of when you exercise or exercise intensity on the indices of sleep quality. For this study, we looked at 34 active men and women over a 7-day period wearing actigraph watches. They were grouped into an AM or PM group and a moderate or vigorous intensity group. We measured 4 measures of sleep: total sleep time, sleep efficiency percentage, sleep onset latency, and wake after sleep onset. What did we find? We found that neither exercise intensity or timing had an effect on sleep quality, so no more excuses. Work out.
Our next speaker is Dave Church.
So we looked at the effects of it.
1 second. Time out. Is it on?
It's that one. That one's also not working. The lab. The second one. Should die.
Got it.
Start it over.
Okay.
All right, here we go again. In 1995, we looked at acute testosterone infusion and how it affects protein synthesis. I was 6. So here's our methods. We used a bunch of different isotopes, infused them all, and then either with or without testosterone. Over the entire course of the period, they got about 30 mg of testosterone within a lipid thing. It was only an N of 4, but we clearly increased testosterone concentrations both in the arterial and venous sides. We saw no effects on muscle FSR or FBR or net balance. So in short, there's still a knowledge gap between acute and 5 days of testosterone administration and how it affects muscle protein kinetics. So it might be useful for like military populations and special forces.
Our next speaker is Ryan Sawitsky. Ryan.
Hi, my name is John. But we looked at weight loss formula within caffeine, body composition, and resting energy expenditure. So studies in Africa, one lab in particular, showed pretty drastic weight loss, looking at what I'm going to refer to as Dietary, because I can't pronounce the name fully. So we tested in a double-blind, parallel, and stratified different random placebo control. We used the DEXA and metabolic cart for our primary measures, at least. One group is just weight loss, is the Dietary and thermogenics. Another group, we added caffeine to the same thing versus a dextrose control. Mostly, we saw in the top 2, you can see the weight loss group had the most effect. It was kind of minor, REE. So it was mostly placebo that actually then changed. The conclusions would be the same.
Our next speaker is Dr. Edgar Aras.
Hi everyone, my name is Edgar, I'm a PhD student from Brazil. I'm going to present my research related by effect of probiotic supplementation on upper respiratory tract infections after a marathon race. It's well established that strenuous exercise leads to transient immune depression and such strategies as macro and micronutrients attenuate these immune dysfunctions. Recently, probiotic supplementations are being used to reduce upper respiratory infections in athletes. So 14 males marathon races were supplemented with probiotic or placebo during 30 days following this experimental design. As a result, we saw that probiotic group has a 29% lower incidence compared to placebo as the symptoms and severity. So we conclude that 30 days of probiotic. Okay, thank you.
60 seconds.
Okay, our last speaker is Dr. James Morton.
I'm
Okay, so the aim of the present study was to test the hypothesis that post-exercise muscle glycogen concentration regulates PGC1 alpha expression. To do this, we recruited 10 males who completed 8 3-minute efforts on the cycle ergometer after adhering to 3 different diets, high, medium, and low carbohydrate intake. As you would expect, each dietary condition elicited differences in glycogen concentration both before and after exercise. Subjects were also able to oxidize significantly more lipids in accordance with the dose of carbohydrate. When we looked inside the muscle, we seen the magnitude of exercise-induced increase in both PGC1 alpha and P53 was not significantly different between conditions. However, when we correlated the change in PGC1 alpha with the absolute concentration, we seen a strong, significant positive relationship. And so on that note, the data really demonstrates that the magnitude of post-exercise gene expression is dependent on glycogen concentration. Thank you.
Okay, so 22 scientists just gave us 1-minute presentations that were fabulous. And honestly, I can't wait to see some of the posters and read some of the papers that come out of these presentations. So during this time, the judges are totaling up their scores, and in fashion like American Idol, we will choose, I guess, the top 3. And Tricia will take it from here to announce.
We have some great medals up on the stage. Not to my graduates. Well, was. In second place, Dr. Eric Roston. I'm really pumped to announce the winner.